What's going on, gamers? I think I'm with everyone else when I'm looking at the major success that Resident Evil 4 Remake is getting. You know, it goes in there with two heavy hitters. One being that it's a Resident Evil game, and I think we can all agree Resident Evil games is one of like the OGs of gaming. People love Resident Evil, and I feel like with them doing these remakes, they're introducing it to a newer audience, so it sells the later installments. One could argue that because of the success Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3 remakes did, maybe it helped pick up sales of Resident Evil Village. Now, I think that's one of the reasons that they probably did the third person mode in Resident Evil Village, is to kind of make it a little bit more iconic to what they're selling in the older versions. Now, when I'm sitting here looking at how successful these games are, and I'm looking at what Capcom has achieved by doing this, I honestly feel like if Microsoft isn't looking at this format and not looking at the success of these games, I don't know what they're doing. Let's take it from stuff that they're currently making. Right now, they're making an Elder Scrolls 6. Obviously Starfield, but we know Elder Scrolls 6 is over there. Now, wouldn't it be lit and wouldn't it be very engaging for them to hire a studio, put enough effort just like Capcom's making, and say, yo, we're going to have Fallout 3 rebuilt from the ground up. We're going to fix some of things. We're going to really add to stuff. Put aim down sights, put running in it. We're going to make it modern, and we're going to really push Elder Scrolls 6 with this. Now, obviously, Fallout's different, so maybe if they didn't want to do Fallout 3 and they wanted to keep it more of that, fantasy thing, you got Morrowind, you got Oblivion. I would definitely don't bring Skyrim back a 50th time. Rebuild Morrowind from the ground up. That's the oldest franchise right now. There hasn't been a game in a long time. On the Xbox, that was a very close relationship with the Xbox. So you make Morrowind, rebuilt from the ground up, remake. I feel like that would easily push Elder Scrolls 6. Now, let's look at another title that they're currently making, Fable. Fable is a beloved franchise, including myself. I would actually say that Fable has more of a meaning to me than something like Halo. Still love Halo, but I really love Fable. Now, I love Fable 1. I felt like Fable 1 is the best in the franchise right now. But what would be very good of them is, let's say this year at E3, they announced Fable's coming out next year. I don't know if it's coming out next year. Just my opinion. If it comes out next year, it would go along with what I'm about to say. So they go out there and they say, yo, Fable's coming out 2024, end of 2024. So you know what we're going to do? We have a Fable 1 remake built from the ground up coming out this year. I think people would lose their mind. And then you're going to introduce this Fable brand to this newer audience. Now, sure, there might be a lot of differences between this Fable game and the Fable game that Playground's making, because obviously they're two different worlds. But I think we can all agree that Fable 1 remake being extremely successful, or even if it isn't like extremely successful, Fable 1 remake being built and sold to a younger demographic so they can get ready and pretty much, have that mindset where people look at Fable and they know what it is. Because let's be real here, Fable 3 came out years ago. Fable 2 even longer than that. And I feel like a lot of the younger audience, the people that Microsoft's really trying to captivate to coming into the ecosystem, they've never heard of a Fable game. They've never heard of an Elder Scrolls game, because we ain't seen an Elder Scrolls game since 2011. I know that people are working on these franchises. I know that it will cost money to outsource a good studio to remake these games from the ground up. But to me, you got to reintroduce these games to a newer audience. I'm a huge fan of something like Banjo-Kazooie. I love Banjo-Kazooie. It's one of my favorite things. And I personally feel like Banjo-Kazooie could be a really solid answer to something like Ratchet and Clank. Do they need an answer to Ratchet and Clank? Probably not. But I do feel you need a good platform on your console, because Microsoft don't really have those. They got a couple decent ones, but I don't feel like they have that go-to brand name. And Banjo-Kazooie's been around since the N64 era. And you could easily reintroduce Banjo-Kazooie as a Banjo-Kazooie remake and then gauge the interest. If people are buying that, people are liking it in Game Pass, green light a sequel. Banjo 3 or whatever you want to call it. Oh no, actually that would be 4 because they had nuts and bolts. A lot of people don't consider that nuts and bolts. Now, let's take it a little step back. They obviously, Halo currently right now is in a bad state in terms of, what people think about it. Now, I do think that this new season's really helped gauge interest and bring people back to the brand, but I still think that there's some damage there that's not going to be fixed very easily when it comes to Halo Infinite. What would be really good for Halo Infinite? Rebuilding Halo 3 from the ground up and putting that on Game Pass. You can even replace it in the Master Chief Collection. I don't know if they can do that. There's probably a lot of, engine stuff going on there. It would be hard to do that. But if they're able to, or it can just be a standalone title that works with the Master Chief Collection, I think people would lose their minds if they got a Halo 3 remake. Look, I know a lot of you do not want to see remakes, and I agree with you. 100% agree with you. Remakes shouldn't be the end-all, be-all thing. They shouldn't take place of new IPs. But to me, I feel like if Microsoft's going to want these newer sequels of games that realistically haven't been seen out in the wild for 5 to 10 years, and you got these newer audiences coming in every year that's never played a Fallout game, never played an Elder Scrolls game, never played a Fable game, then I think you're going to have to really do what you can to bring this title to that audience. Sure, some of them might not like it, but you could have something like a Fable remake, the first one. They put enough money into it. They put enough, just talent in general behind it. I find it hard to believe that people won't like that game. It's a very unique, very funny, and very vibey game. Yeah, that's what I can honestly say about it. And I think that a lot of people would gravitate towards it. Modernize it, bring some features that was in Fable 2 and 3, put it in there. And then when Fable 1 has really captivated, people has played it on Game Pass, everyone loves it, then you come out with that trailer for Fable 4 or Fable remake. I don't know exactly what they want to call it, because right now it's just called Fable. I don't know if that's going to keep its name. But, something like Elder Scrolls, like I said, there's people that ain't never even heard of Morrowind, Oblivion. And a proper remake of Morrowind would get so many people hyped up to play that game on next-gen hardware. I just want to see it, man. I feel like Microsoft, if they're not looking at what Capcom's doing, you could see Capcom is clearly nurturing their IPs in a sequel sense with Village and Biohazard, but they're also going back and doing right by their past library. Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 4, and probably Resident Evil 5 after that. Obviously Resident Evil 3. And I think Microsoft could definitely get into that bag. Will they? Probably not. But if I was Microsoft, I really wanted them to get, a studio that just projects into remaking stuff. That's what they excel at. Obviously, Sony got the best one that my opinion is on the market. But, you could build one. I feel like enough talent, you need to build a studio that's just made to make old games, to bring them into the new platform. Got something like Game Pass, and I feel like games like that might be expensive to make, but they can't be just as expensive as making a brand new game where you have to completely come up with new original ideas. Sure, they'll have to make new properties, new assets, but we're making assets off pre-existing stuff of what they know it looks like. And to me, I know that would be expensive, but if you do it right, Microsoft, come here. If you do it right, don't go out there and just do some remaster with some new frames and a couple new textures. Actually dedicate money, spend some money, make these games like they deserve, and make these games like you would expect to play games in 2023, in 2024 and beyond. And I feel like you would be extremely successful. And that's just my opinion. I know I rambled a little bit on this. My apologies for that. If you guys like this video, definitely hit that like button if you guys don't mind. If you like the video, definitely subscribe to the channel. I make weekly content, getting back into the rhythm of things. And, put in the comment section below, what game would you like to see be remade? Now, it doesn't have to be Microsoft. You can do anything. I know there's a lot of games out there that people want to see remade. And I'm curious to hear your guys' opinion in the comment section below. And until next time, this is Gaming Addict. I'm out of here. Peace.